Wonder Woman is, without a doubt, the most popular female superhero ever created, and one of the most popular comic book characters in general. So it's crazy to think that even though she's an iconic part of pop culture, there has never been any Wonder Woman animated series. The character has appeared on many DC cartoons throughout the years, but as of me recording this video, there's never been an animated show that mainly focused on Wonder Woman as its sole protagonist. This gets even more ridiculous when you realize that there are many other DC and Marvel superheroes who are less popular than her, and yet they still got animated shows based on them before Wonder Woman. I mean, we live in a world where Kite Man and MODOK are their own animated series before Wonder Woman, and that's just tragic. She's a part of the Trinity, and one of DC's most emblematic heroes, but she often gets ignored when it comes to adaptations. And there's actually a pretty specific reason as to why Warner Brothers and different broadcasting companies have rejected many times the proposal of a Wonder Woman animated series in the past. The first recorded instance of an attempt at creating a Wonder Woman cartoon happened in 1968, thanks to an article from Back Issue Magazine number 5. We know that around that time, CBS was looking into expanding its animated programming by making adaptations of many different DC characters, after they saw the positive reception and ratings of the Superman/Aquaman Hour of Adventure, which was an animated series that not only featured stories revolving around Superman and Aquaman, they also included segments where other DC heroes got the spotlight. The Flash, the Atom, Hawkman, Green Lantern, the Teen Titans, and the Justice League all got their own adventures during the program. Allegedly, CBS began working on a pilot for a potential Metamorpho series, and for the following season they were also planning on producing pilots for shows about Plastic Man and Wonder Woman as well, with CBS also making a number of presentation drawings that showed Aquaman interacting with other characters they planned on using, such as the Doom Patrol, Buana Beast, the Metal Men, and the Blackhawks, as seen in this image. However, CBS abandoned these plans after the release of the live-action Batman show starring Adam West, which became immensely popular. And to bank on that popularity, CBS decided to rework their plans and began production on a new series titled The Batman/Superman Hour of Adventure. Wonder Woman would later famously get her own live-action show starring Linda Carter during the 70s, which played a huge part in cementing the character's place in pop culture. But unfortunately, she didn't have the same luck on the animated front. She would make her first official animated appearance in 1972 as a guest character on the Brady Kids, and she would later be included in the Super Friends line of shows throughout the 70s and 80s. But during the 90s, she would finally get a new attempt at creating an animated series based on her. Toy company Mattel partnered up with DC Comics in order to envision a new line of toys to be marketed towards girls, and they also began producing an animated special that could have led to a potential full series. And they would officially present this concept during the 1993 Toy Fair, where they showcased their idea for Wonder Woman and the Star Riders, a concept about Wonder Woman leading a team of other female superheroes with elemental motifs. Two of them were Ice and Dolphin, who were already established characters from DC Comics lore, and accompanying them were also Celera and Star Lily, two new characters created specifically for this project. They would all have to protect powerful jewels that harness the essence of different elemental forces, with the entire premise including some prevalent environmental themes, and they would constantly fight against the original villain Persia and her big cat Panthera. Wonder Woman and the rest of the Star Riders would also get their very own winged horses, and their toy line was projected to include many different accessories, such as a pink castle that would serve as the hero's base of operations. And Mattel was even considering expanding the toy line with even more female heroes from DC Comics, with them making a prototype for a potential Supergirl figure. Most of the doll images we have from this proposed project came from the 1993 Toy Fair presentation, but there's also some concept art and storyboards from the animated pitch they presented. And DC also published a mini-comic that came bundled in with Kellogg's mini cinnamon buns. However, we've never gotten to see any clips from the animated pitch, and the project was ultimately cancelled. As to exactly why this pitch was rejected, animator and producer Boyd Kirkland had worked on this project while it was in development, and he said that the prevailing belief at the time was that action-oriented toys marketed towards girls didn't sell well, causing retailers to not have faith in the pitch and placing very few advance orders for its products. The lukewarm reception of the She-Ra toy line years prior, which was Mattel's previous attempt at creating an action franchise for girls, also most likely contributed to the retailer's lack of confidence in this new proposal. Kirkland would later try to pitch a new idea for a Wonder Woman action cartoon to Fox Kids and Kids WB in 1994, with some concept art that suggests this show would have been a more faithful adaptation of the character, but both networks passed on this pitch as well. It really was an unfortunate situation, and not only just in regards to Wonder Woman, but for all female-led animated series. As a lot of you who grew up watching cable television might know, there's always been a pretty distinct divide between cartoons made for boys and those made for girls. TV shows in general are always created with a specific target demographic in mind, since advertisers always take into consideration what type of audience watches that show in order to decide how to use the ad space during commercial breaks. This was even more relevant when it came to cartoons, since most times animated shows depended not only on its ratings and revenue from ad placements, but they also had to have profitable merchandising and toy sales to supplement their production costs. Just as a side note, it wasn't always like this, but during the 1980s, Ronald Reagan made some reforms that made it legal to market products on television directly towards children, which caused TV networks to start creating animated shows specifically designed to sell toy lines. This is why cartoons with female protagonists were usually created with many elements that would mostly appeal to young girls, and their toys reflected that. Action cartoons, on the other hand, were almost always created to be sold to young boys. It's part of the reason why toys made for girls were called dolls, and toys for boys were called action figures. They always made sure to have that distinct divide between the demographics. So, due to this, you can imagine that having an action cartoon with a female lead was a very hard sell for creatives, since TV networks and executives simply didn't have the confidence that their toys would sell. This did change through the years. We saw different action cartoons with girl protagonists throughout the 2000s that challenged this antiquated and, frankly, misogynistic notion that prevailed in the animation industry. Shows like Kim Possible, Totally Spies, and especially the Powerpuff Girls proved that action cartoons for girls absolutely could work and be very profitable, but neither Marvel or DC attempted to give one of their superheroines an animated show to try to challenge this stereotype. Wonder Woman kept making appearances on other DC shows, such as Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, which is probably the character's most popular animated incarnation, and a huge reason why so many fans have always wanted to see a Wonder Woman animated series. Yet Bruce Timm himself has also spoken on why he believes the character never got her own show, and he basically gave the same reason that Boyd Kirkland said more than a decade earlier. This happened during an interview with Toon Zone on the 2009 New York Comic-Con, as Bruce Timm was promoting the upcoming release of the new direct-to-video Wonder Woman animated movie, which is a fantastic movie by the way. During the interview, he was asked if he ever considered the possibility of giving Wonder Woman her own animated show, saying that while he does believe the character is interesting enough to sustain her own series, he still understands how difficult it would be to sell a female-led action cartoon to TV networks, since the common belief was that a show like that simply wouldn't be able to have profitable merchandising sales. This is why Bruce Timm basically gave the same answer as Boyd Kirkland, and it's really sad that the animation industry still hadn't changed enough for it to trust that a Wonder Woman cartoon could be successful. Throughout the years, there were even more attempts at giving the character an animated adaptation. In 2012, animator and producer James Tucker uploaded on his DeviantArt page a model sheet for a pitch about a Wonder Woman show set during the Golden Age, showing designs for not only her but also Steve Trevor, Etta Candy, Hippolyta, Cheetah, Dr. Psycho, and the Duke of Deception, and this concept honestly looks awesome. It seems very similar to the style of Batman the Brave and the Bold, and I would have loved to see a Wonder Woman show in a similar vein.
Are you alright, Steve?
I am now that you're here, Angel. Isn't she terrific?
Years later, director Butch Lukic said during an interview that he had envisioned a show about Wonder Woman set in World War II, but that pitch was turned down because Warner had already decided to set Wonder Woman's first live-action movie in World War I. Lukic ended up taking some elements from this proposed pitch, and then later morphed into Justice Society World War II, an animated movie set in the Tomorrowverse continuity, and it is a film that I enjoy. Wonder Woman's action scenes were also great, and seeing an entire show like that would have been amazing. More recently, James Gunn already announced a show focused on the Amazons titled Paradise Lost. And while we haven't gotten many updates on that show, he has hinted that they're also working on a new Wonder Woman movie to introduce her into the new DCU. But something really cool that's happened since then is that Gunn responded to a tweet made by a fan talking about how Wonder Woman deserves to finally get her own animated show, and Gunn replied with, "Agreed, working on it." So while it obviously isn't an official announcement or anything, I do think that there's a possibility we might actually get to see it finally get made in the coming years. The character's mythos is so expansive and diverse that any live-action adaptation could never fully encompass all the different elements that make up Wonder Woman's lore. And her many different comic book runs have had so many distinct and separate ideas that are worth exploring. An animated series could potentially take elements from George Perez, Gail Simone, Greg Rucka, and many other writers that have written her stories, and take the best elements of her history to create an amalgamation that captures the character's spirit. Much like how the DCAU did with Batman and Superman's extensive comic book lore. They could do a Wonder Woman cartoon set in the DCU like Creature Commandos, or they could give her a show in a separate continuity. Maybe if the upcoming My Adventures with Green Lantern is a success, they could consider making a My Adventures with Wonder Woman in the future. And just saying that out loud, it makes me realize how insane it is that DC is gonna give Jessica Cruz her own animated series before Wonder Woman. Hell, they're even making a Starfire show. DC and Warner Brothers just don't have a valid excuse anymore. I'm not an expert on the matter, but I do think that cartoons aren't as dependent on merchandising and toy sales as they used to be. There's way more female-led animated shows now than in the past. Even action shows. The Legend of Korra is one of the best action cartoons ever, and having a female protagonist didn't hinder the show in any way. Times have changed, and I'd say that now would be the perfect time to give Wonder Woman an animated series that's able to respect her comic book history and prove to people why she's such a great character in the first place. But now I'd like to know, what would you like to see from a Wonder Woman animated show? What characters would you like to see? And what comic book runs do you think they should take as inspiration? Comment below your thoughts, and as always, thank you so much for watching.